Fantasy baseball statistics, starting, pitching. We got a lot to cover today, boys. I got my tea out. You might want to make your coffee. Take it in little bits and pieces. We're doing starting pitching. I'm going to drop my top 10. We got a lot to go through. Let's get it started right away. Daniel Halliday. Daniel Halliday from the comments is talking about loving how we're working the baseball savant. So just a couple nuggets before we leave hitting to cross over to pitching. Get over to your baseball savant. Something I really like to assess some hitters. Go to your percentile rankings on the drop down on the meter board, percentile rankings, and sort by, let's say, barrel percentage, either barrels or barrel percentage. The reason we like that is because we know that barrels are, the batting average on barrels is about 80%, 85%. So who's doing it? When you get that sort, the percentile ranking for where a player is, they'll be sorted by their percentile ranking, I believe, for barrel percentage or just barrel number. And you'll be able to use your eye to scan back across and kind of separate who's a stud from the trash. Somebody who's got a really good barrel percentage but doesn't have the rest of the game. So here we go. At the top of the list is Miguel Sano. Your eye can scan across and you see the flaws. XBA of a 12 and XOBP of an 11. Those are both terrible. Miguel Sano is getting a very high barrel percentage because the exit velocity is 95. Go down one lower, you see Tatis Jr., straight 90s across the board. So there's no questions there. Jorge Soler, 99% in the barrel percentage, awesome. But the XBA is a 40, the XOBP is a 61. The XWOBA is a 71. So there's some blemishes there. You get down to Juan Soto, so you start to see it. Matt Chapman, okay, we like that the X slug and the X ISO is a 91 and 95, but the XBA is a 41. So you can quickly scan across by the creme de la creme of barrels and barrel percentage, and then use your eye to scan back across. Okay, Teoscar. Well, Teoscar looks pretty good. He's got a little bit of a low OBP because he swings at everything. Everything else looks good. Gary Sanchez, not so much. The XBA is trash. So that's just one extra little tool to look at. Before we get into starting pitching, as always, we got to talk a little bit of salary cap draft strategy. So I wanted to bring up certain issues that you may run into in your salary cap draft. And one is truly being forced off of your guy. So if it's my guy and it's a top player, this year it could be a Tatis and Acuna, whoever it might be, you could run into a room that you're going to face tremendous amounts of pressure on. I mean, if those guys are $50 players, $60 players even, is someone going to take you to 70, to 75? Really setting up how high you're willing to go. If you're willing to go to 75, will you go to 76? Probably. So building in, you might have $20 of aggression, really committing to your player. Will there be some number? Will $100 get me off of him? I mean, probably. You probably have to have a plan of $20 over 15, 30, just somebody just kamikaze blowing their stack that you don't want to get caught up in that and really ruin your whole draft. But then again, it will hurt you to not have your guy, your favorite player. That could ruin your draft. So being prepared to keep going all the way up. But if you are forced off of your guy because somebody went in too high, just be prepared for what your game plan is. And I think that's why the ladder strategy is so important. So you can have some fallbacks so that you don't panic and get upset in the draft and have things fall apart and lose control. You're going to always be in control if you have a good ladder. This is what I think the hardest challenge in all the auctions is really kind of strange nomination. If there's the strangest of nomination is good quality mid-level guys that I wanted to get for mid-level value, let's say $15 to $25, being nominated early when everybody has big stacks, subjecting them to overpay. This is an uncomfortable place to be in. So if I was banking on a $21 player who I thought was undervalued, who should have been a $30 player, and he gets nominated by just in the first round or the second round by somebody, just for like they could read my mind, or they wanted to mix it up a little bit. You really have to know your value and be ready to get off. And now, what is a mid-level guy? Now you're being faced with a $10, $15 overpay on a mid-tier guy, and this can really kind of throw your draft out of whack and get you out of step where you don't want to be. So, what's important here, I think, my solution to this, when after it happens to me, I go, okay, let me really get to know my mid-level guy. The other thing that I might have to do, where I think you have to be ready on the fly, is overpay, keep him in your plan, but readjust through your slush fund, change some things later in the draft if that was a key player. That way, if I go back and I build a ladder, I go, okay, even though he's listed at 15, he's going for about 30 in the auction. That's like double. So I have to decide now how I'm going to build around him. Here it's going to be taking a little bit of money from closers, maybe dropping an ace. But we have a lot of money to work with. It's 260 in baseball as opposed to 200 in football, and I think that gives us a lot of flexibility, even though we've got to fill a lot of spots and it's a big league. So a couple key tips, we talk about this a little bit every year, is giving the draft ideas. So nomination strategy absolutely is a lot of the game. Giving the draft ideas is doing something, and sometimes I like to just stay quiet. I'll nominate from the top. I'll throw the top guy in because I want to get big money value out, just kind of basically, so I can see that. Giving a draft ideas is something like jumping over and nominating pitching. You got to be careful. If you start doing that, other guys didn't know why you did it. They liked how it turned out. They liked what happened. Now they're nominating pitching. Now you might get a little bit too much momentum through that. Nominating injured players, that's going to happen all the time. That's not really fancy. Guys think like, oh, I've got it figured out, and they're doing that in the draft. That's not really the key. The other thing is, I don't want to get hung up. We're suddenly nominating an injured player and he sleeps through, and that could happen if there's no bots in the draft. So leave that for some of the other noobs. But nomination strategy, I have a move which is the test nomination and what I might call the nomin grab, where I nominate something for myself and then I go get it myself. And sometimes this happens. So if you've been waiting, and let's say you liked a $45 player or $40 player, and they haven't been nominated, knobs have been crazy. Guys are nominating catchers and injured players. We're wasting a lot of time early in the draft. And suddenly you realize, well, I've got 220. I've got a pretty big stack compared to the room. Sometimes it's better to just get in there and have your battle when you want it. Like, it's my time. I haven't bought a player in a little while. Just nominate your guy and go ahead and bid him up and take him. The nomin grab. A little move before you do the nomin grab. Sometimes when there's a lot of money and there's a lot of hostility, I might want to see nominating a comparable player at the same position. Let's see how this outfielder does before I go get my actual stud. And you nominate him, you say, oh, whoa, the bid went over $7, $8. Maybe it's not the best time to nomin grab. Hold off a little bit, let some of that money get out there, and nominate your guy a little bit later after that. There's a lot of, you'll see this, and be careful that giving this idea to the draft is the sleepers early. This can backfire on you if it is very early in the draft, first 2-3 rounds where there's a lot of money, and you nominate what is a $5 sleeper, some just very young, let's say a Key Brian Hayes, and you're like, I'm just going to nominate, suddenly you could be taking a guy who's listed at 5 or 10, I'm not sure yet, and he could go for 30 just because everybody's got stacks and they're not evaluating players left yet. So be careful with that. But at the same time, I do like a little bit of that so that I'm not having that final battle late and I can evaluate where my stack is. So being very conscious of nomination. And my last little thing is kind of breaking up the flow of nomination. So to get extra money out, one of your goals is to nominate guys that on the list we're only taking, let's say, $15 or $20 and getting people to pay 25 to 30, extracting more money than it is. But that only works for so long before expensive guys start going for too cheap. And if you're not in on that spending and you can't have a lot of these guys, you don't want to be caught in the long run of that. So sometimes you got to switch from nominating guys to extract extra money to just the big names. Okay, guys, too much value is going off the board. Switch back over and start nominating high ticket, big ticket aces, big ticket offensive players, and pull the money out. So you got to kind of be aware in using your nomination. You're only going to get 18 of them, so they've got to be used strategically. This isn't a random thing. So you're always plotting something. You're plotting get out money. You're plotting a nom and grab. Something definitely to keep aware of. Yes, it was Daniel Halliday enjoying those baseball savant numbers. I had one other comment on there. Someone read some statistics about comparing the barrel percentages between Juan Soto and Luis Robert. And I mean, you got to go back. You got to go back to your baseball savant, my friend. You sort leaderboard barrels per plate appearance. Juan Soto's third in barrels per plate appearance with an 11.7. Barrels per batted ball event is different than barrels per plate appearance. Fangraphs is grabbing barrels per batted ball event. That's like bat to ball contact. Plate appearance is a whole appearance. So you're going to see a little bit different. Then Juan Soto on barrels per batted ball event is an 18.3. Luis Robert, I gotta go down to find Robert. Let me see if I can get him on the barrels per batted ball event. I thought he was down here in the teens somewhere. Luis Robert is down at 28th. Luis Robert's barrels per plate appearance is 7.5, and his batted ball event is 12.8. So, no, he is not right next to Juan Soto. Yes, he's a very stealthy player, and he's going to take more bases than Juan. But I just wanted to touch on that point a little bit. So, let's do what we came here to do, and that is a starting pitching workshop. We haven't talked about starting pitching statistics. I want to lay out a roadmap here. We're going to start on Fangraphs, and we're going to use those tools because they sort very cleanly, and we can look at all the players. And then we're going to jump over to Baseball Savant and use Baseball Savant to dial into arsenals and to look at there's a story being told about these pitchers, and we're going to tease those apart. We might go a little bit long here to get through some players, and I'll lay down my top 10. So first I'll do the stats, and then we'll jump to the players. So here we go. We're on Fangraphs. Leaders 2020. And of course, before I did this, I looked at a lot of historical metrics. Last season, pitchers only pitched 11 to 12 outings. In a general season, they're pitching about 33 outings, 31, 32, 33 outings. So we only got a third of the data for pitchers. And I think that the small sample affects pitchers even more because at least hitters were playing almost every day. Pitchers had their starts cut into a third. We got basically a dozen starts of how these guys were able to go. So you're able to play with things. And if you want to, there's custom date range under the menu, and you can merge, let's say, 19 with 20. You can open it up. You can do 18 to 20 and start looking at some stuff historical, sucking some of that data back in. But we get to the dashboard. The key metrics I'm looking at on here are, let's talk the underlying. We want to win strikeouts. So I care a lot about K per 9, strikeouts per 9 innings, walks per 9, BB per 9. That is important to me because it shows control. Sub 2 walks per 9 is elite control. In the 2s I can tolerate. Up over 3s getting walky. That's the way to look at that. K per 9, 9 per 9 is my cutoff. If you're sub 9 per 9, I'm starting to not see enough strikeouts. That's going to be maybe a Grinky. Ks per 9, 10, 11, and a couple guys you see Bieber had a 14, Degrom had a 13 K per 9. Woo, that's more elite stuff. The other thing to look at here is going to be your left on base. A little bit of luck for once you had a lot of players on base and how well did you do. And I think 70 to 80 is kind of average and tolerable for guys. What makes me a little nervous scanning over these guys right now, just to flag, is Shane Bieber had a 91% left on base, and Trevor Bauer had also a 91% left on base. And that makes me a little nervous that there could be a little bit of regression there. And I want to really dig into with you guys a little bit the FIP and the XFIP, the ERA indicators, and why those are different and how to use them. FIP is based on that individual pitcher's home run rate, whatever their home runs per nine was. XFIP will use a league average home run per nine. So FIP will kind of tell you how well that pitcher personally pitched, where XFIP is more predictive because they believe that the home runs per nine are going to regress towards the mean. How they're going to do is if they either were light on bombs, they're going to give up more. If they were giving up a lot of bombs, they're going to regress. Those are going to come back down. And so we'll get into some more details on home runs per nine and where it hurt him. I mean, Garrett Cole, the 23rd guy, he was giving up, in home runs per nine, about a 1 home run per nine is okay. I want you to be sub 1. Up over 1 is getting a little bomby. And the reason that home runs are very important because you might have a couple guys on bases. This is the difference between Bieber and, let's say, Bueller, who I'll get to later, is that if you had a lot of guys on base and you stranded them, that's a left on base, and you got your ERA down, you got your wins up, everything went smoothly. If you got a couple guys on base because you're walking and then you give up a bomb, suddenly, that's 3 runs, 4 runs, your ERA is exploding, you're going up into your pitch count, it's a big problem. So things are turning on how well guys are able to suppress home runs. So there's your FIPS and your XFIPs. And XFIP is kind of a starting point. It's a great metric to go to, is just sorting XFIP. You got to click it twice on Fangraphs because we want them to be low. And here you see your Bieber, Degrom, Maeda, Nola, Darvish. That will kind of give you everybody that you're looking at there. All right, let's move over. So we're checking those things. The next thing, we'll go to advanced. We'll go to the advanced tab. The advanced tab, the true filth meter, really my favorite that I look at all the time, I look at month to month, is K minus BB percentage. So here, it's a tension between high Ks and strikeouts, which I want, and low walks, which I also want. And how dirty a guy is at both of these. If you're both high Ks and low walks, you're dominating hitters. And so what we see here is, let me give you some metrics. So for me, 20% and above, very filthy pitchers. Mid-20s, I'm starting to get more excited. And anything 30 and over is like crazy. But what I find historically is that it's not the same guys. Pitchers have to really go right. They have to things all come together. Their feel is there, their health is there, and they can flash these 30 K minus BB percentages. Even 26, 27, that's very high. Where 20, 21 is a little bit dwindling. But what I notice year after year is that it's the guys, take it even as low as like 17%. A 17% K to BB percentage player can pop into the mid-20s. So you're going to want to find your guys from this tier and believe what they were doing. That's your K minus BB percentage. The other thing to just take a peek at, we want low whip. Whip is going to be a category in 10-cat. So that's really good. Walks and hits over innings pitch. We don't want walks or hits. So whip is a really good metric. And you see guys getting a little whippy, Aaron, Nola, Scherzer, Castillo, versus really tighty whips like Bauer's was pretty tighty. And you can also look at your Sierra, your skills, independent earn run average, which I like. And while I'm in here, let me just touch on the ERA minus, the FIP minus, and the XFIP minus, which I'm sprinkling in a little bit. These are in reverse. The key here is park effects, how guys did in different just ballparks, because balls play differently, and weather. So that's what the minus is on there. Sub 100 is good. So the lowest guys on XFIP minus, the lowest guys on FIP minus They're going to be good, really good year to year as they might play in different parks or have a different schedule that season. Keeping that in mind, let's keep going. The other tabs, we're going to come right across these tabs before I get into the players. I switched over to plate discipline. We know this from our hitters, but now we're looking at it for our pitchers. Fangraph sorts its plate discipline with O swing, getting guys to chase being the sort. So who really got guys out of the zone? Kenta Maeda at 40%, Degrom at almost 40%, Nola, Corbin, Bieber, getting guys well out of the zone. It looks like for me, we've talked about this before, like a 30 O swing. There's a lot of guys doing 33, so like a 34 O swing for getting guys outside the zone. But the tension here is the zone contact. When they do come in, how well or how hard are they getting hit? And just scanning these numbers, what is really, really tidy is a sub 80 zone contact. Because how I would reverse this is that a pitcher with the sub 80 zone contact is making all the hitters bad. They can't get them for strikes. So things that jump right off the bat. Kenta Maeda's O swing is great, but the zone contact is 84, so he's getting touched up a little bit in the zone. Jacob Degrom had a 71.6 zone contact. So completely filthy, can come in and out as he chooses, walking all over hitters, walking around the plate, painting. Garrett Cole with the 79%. Now I'm just scanning the low Z contact. You can sort Z contact. You can see who's doing it well. Scherzer, even though he had a little bit of a down season by his standards, still with a 77% zone contact. Lucas Giolito a 74, Brandon Woodruff a 78. So some of those guys just really popping out. You can see why it doesn't go as well. I mean, Marco Gonzalez with an 89% zone contact. That's not going to work. Let's keep going. That was plate discipline. Another tab, I didn't use this as much. Some of the StatCast metrics, they seem to mean more for me, for hitters, but I'm still using them for pitchers. So you can click on the StatCast tab here on Fangraphs. And now we're looking for suppression. We're looking for hard hit suppression. We're looking for barrel suppression. Who kept the barrels down? Ryu, Wheeler, Keuchel, Castillo, Brady Singer, Kyle Hendricks. It isn't the perfect metric, but yeah, you like to see guys on this list. You could have some confidence. Wheeler didn't have the best season, but he was suppressing barrels. It's there for you as a tool. Look at that historically. The next one that I really do like, though, going across those tabs is pitch type. Hidden and pitch type is something very important. It's sorted by fastball velocity. So on the pitch type, you're looking at usages, which is the percentage, and the velocity. And you can see by what is highlighted for each pitcher what they're throwing. Jacob Degrom with the big boy fastball at 98.6 miles an hour. Oh my God. Luis Castillo, 97. Dinelson Lamet, 97. Wheeler, 97. Cole, 97. So yes, 97 cheddar, 98.6 cheddar, that's going to play up. That's going to be hard to hit. Now you've got a ball that's coming out where a batter has to just guess. Just guess and swing at what that could be, because there's no time to react. The ball is in the glove. So obviously we love big boy cheddar. I kind of say this is an old shout out to Eno Saris about the effective velocity at 93, 94 really being a tipping point for causing guessing. So that still is my line. I need 93 cheddar. I really need 94 cheddar. But right there to make guys guess. Below 93, now players are able to identify it. They're able to spot spin. And we'll see where that cutoff is here. Giolito with the 94. He's the 13th pitcher. Only 13 starters up over 94 miles an hour. Bauer at 93. Let's go to 93. That brings us down to 19 pitchers. And then it starts to slow down. So we are going to look at who really has some of that big boy fastball. The next thing I want to jump over to here is a list of pitch values, which I don't like that much. It's one at a time. This is ERA suppression per pitch with fastball, sliders, cutters, curveballs, changes. You can take a look there. Sure, Gonzalez had a good fastball, but his change was negative. Here you just want positive numbers. Does a guy have a really complete arsenal? There's Jacob Degrom, no negatives. He's got a good fastball, a good slider, a curveball, and a change that both play. And just going into pitch mix, we do like to see guys with 3, hopefully 4 pitches. Some guys have more. You have Bauer throwing 5 pitches, Darvish throwing 6 pitches to really keep guys off balance and have different velocity bandwidths. So there's your fan graphs. That's what we got going there. Let's jump over to Baseball Savant and let's really break out my starting pitching top 10. So on your Statcast, when you go to leaderboards, you could go to pitching, you could go to expected statistics, and the thing that Statcast is just still a little clumsy here, where Fangraphs will just sort by starting pitchers. I can select starting pitchers, I can select relievers, and it will sort them for me. I don't have that option on Statcast, so I have to change the minimum plate appearances to like 150. Will pretty much kick out all the relievers because I don't want to compare relievers to starters. I just want to look at the starters. My only concern there is when you push the plate appearances up, I think some guys could get lost if they didn't pitch that much. And so that's where you just have to cast a wide net to make sure you're assessing all your players. And is reverse X Woba great? I mean, Bauer, Maeda, Javier Christian's on here, Max Fried, Dylan Bundy. I mean, I don't think Max Fried or Dylan Bundy are better than Yu Darvish and Luis Castillo, so I don't like the reverse ex-Woba sort. But here they are. I've got a big 2. I've got a big top 2. This was tough. My number 1 starting pitcher going into next season is Jacob Degrom. Jacob Degrom is 32, 6'4". Let's go into this story a little bit. For some reason, I don't have the visuals up on this machine right now, but I will look at visuals and look at where the guys are locating. But what I do like is pitch tracking. And I want to take you into the pitch tracking and show you under pitch tracking where I'm looking and how I'm devising out this story. I wanted to make sure I view more seasons. This won't let me view more seasons. We're going to have to work with just the 2 seasons it gives me. But typically, I'll expand it. I'll look at how this pitcher is going. And what is really amazing, just first is going to be MPH and the mix. So you got the 4-seam fastball for Degrom, a slider, a changeup, a curve. The miles per hour, we see him sitting at 98.6. Well, last season in 2019, Degrom went to 96.9 on the fastball. I know from a season before, he was at like 95 on the fastball. So he found a tick. He found a tick again to 98.6. Really scary. And really where the magic is here is on your whiff percentage. Scan across. Look at your whiff percentage. What we learned from last season, and I do believe this is working, is whiff rates up over 40. Up over 40% whiff rate. These are out pitches. This is a pitch a guy can use to get strikes. And what we see here from Degrom, who really takes a step forward, in 2019, a changeup with a 39% whiff, a slider with a 35% whiff, and a fastball with a 27% whiff. Well, he shows up this season, and he goes to 44, 44, 37. So almost 3 40% whiff pitches. That's going to be 3 out pitches, including a big boy fastball at 98.6 that guys can't catch up with. And the other thing, you got to swing back over and look at the number of pitches thrown and the number thrown to right-handed batters, the number thrown to left-handed batters. So there's a curveball, but he only threw it 30 times, and he threw it only a little bit to lefties. So that's just a change-up pitch. It's not a major part of his arsenal. Jacob was able to work fastball, slider, change, and dominate the league last year. What I do like is you can see when things are shelved or added. If you go to 2019, he used a little bit of a sinker. It had a batting average of a 200. He just kind of put it away. He stopped throwing it. I will check batting averages, and I'll check home runs given up per pitch. The real key here that we're setting up is, having a good fastball, having a fastball that you can get whiffs on versus a bad fastball that you've got to kind of work around. Let's cross over here to Shane Bieber. And this was tough. Bieber is 25 years old. We're going to scroll down here to Bieber's pitch tracking, his arsenal, and just see something just absurd. Absurd. Whiff rate on the change, 53%. Whiff rate on the slider, 61%. Curveball, 51%. Just unbelievable. Now, the whiff rate on the fastball, a 25%. So that's 13 percentage points down below Jake. The velocity sits at 94, which is just there, that effective velocity that I'm looking for. I mean, there wasn't really much. I kind of wanted to put Bieber first, but I didn't want to ignore that left on base to think that there could be a step back. But at the same time, there could be a step forward from a guy who truly used 5 pitches, including a cutter that he added. The batting average, I mean, this is the thing, the cutter batting average was 300. It got a little bit of whiffs. Maybe he was inducing grounders. He gave up 2 home runs on it. But it just was another tool for him to mix in and keep hitters off balance. Bieber looks absolutely sensational for next season. So I've got 3 more pitchers here in a little cluster. Garrett Cole, Yu Darvish, and Max Scherzer. Down just a little bit. Garrett Cole, I don't think is quite up with those other guys. Let's take a peek at Garrett's pitch tracking. He looks a lot like Degrom. Big boy fastball at 96.7. But there you see it. Look at the home runs. He gave up 9 bombs on the fastball. That's not good. That's not helping him. That probably is, he's also in New York, so that's a little harder on him. 2 big out pitches with the slider, the curve, 43, 48% whiff rates. A changeup getting a 36% whiff rate. That's very good. So he's kind of working 3 out pitches. A little note on the changeup. The fastball and the changeup, we're looking for that 10-mile-an-hour separation. The speed differential has to be big. So you see a fastball at 96, a changeup at 88, about 8 miles an hour. But it's working for him, keeping guys off balance because the hard stuff is so hard. Let's go down to one more layer here, and you scroll down to the plate discipline. And we talked about this a little bit last year. The zone contact, sub 80. Garrett Cole has that at 75% zone contact. The chase, getting guys outside the zone, above 30. The more chase, the better. We don't want that sub 30. He has that at a 33% chase. And we'll just look at an overall whiff percentage above 30, a 34% whiff for Garrett Cole. So he's really got it all working. How old is he here? 30. I think it's all going to be there. Let's check on a Yu Darvish. Getting a little older, 34 years old. Got over a lot of elbow issues. Darvish is flashing a 6-pitch mix. The fastball gets up to 96. So big boy fastball, true. What is he using? For out pitches. A slider with a 39% whiff. A 4-seam fastball with a 42% whiff. He's mixing in a curve, a sinker, a split finger, all with throwing them a reasonable amount, throwing them to both sides of the plate, a cutter. So we're looking at a bit of a magician here. There's no one you're going to compare to a Yu Darvish in terms of pitch mix and really being creative. Zone contact sub 80 at 77%. The chase only a 30. So there's so much wizardry from Darvish that guys are laying off. We'd like that chase to be up a little higher, but guys are laying off some stuff because he's so hard to hit. The whiff was 32%. In terms of whiff, he really had a career year last year. We've seen Darvish on K to BB percentages flash elite, scary stuff. So if you're looking for an ace, and when I looked at aces, this was the line I want. I told myself, guys that can be the number 1 overall pitcher. Can they do it? Can they take the crown? And so I don't want to force a top 10, but up to this 5, I believe they can really take it and be a top pitcher. And let's Let's throw in a Max Scherzer, 36 years old, had a down year by his standards. Again, I'm not getting the historical, but that's okay. 2019, Scherzer had a 50% whiff on the slider, a 39% whiff on the change. We go to 2020, he still's got that 50% whiff on the slider, so that's plus plus. That's not just mid 40s. That's 50. That's scary. But what happens is the change up goes from a 39% whiff down to a 26% whiff. That didn't help him a lot. The velocity's still there, mid 50s. Scherzer's he's a student of the game. He's 5-pitch mix. He's using a little bit of everything. He's got a hard fastball. Getting a slight discount on the 36-year-old, is the health a concern? Yeah, it is. But that's okay. Scherzer has the stuff to throw gems, to go deep into games. I was down on him being a de facto first-round player last season because I thought there was some risk. But if I can get him for a little bit of value from overreaction, I'm not going to forget that Max Scherzer is elite. And one of the things I noticed this season, just a little segue to get away from the narratives to get to our next five. We got a lot of pitchers on the mend, guys. Guys are hurt. Where's Luis Severino? Hurt. Where's Mike Clevenger? Hurt. Justin Verlander? Hurt. Who else? Is Mike Paxton? I think he's hurt. You can just keep going around the league. There's a lot of guys that are injured, and this is the risk. This is why we spend more into hitting. Guys are more durable. We win those 5 categories. Pitching, we got to kind of balance our risk. We're going to get lucky there because we got to get lucky with health. Guys are going to get hurt this season. And, this is one of the challenges. So if you spend a lot on an ace, a $50 ace, who ends up with a forearm strain, who's out for 8 weeks or has to go get the Tommy John, you just lost a huge stack of your money. So, we really do spend a lot more on hitting and shift over to pitching. So my next little bundle here, I got 2 more guys. This would round out top 7. They're truly, for me, as a top 7. It's Lucas Giolito and Luis Castillo. Lucas Giolito, 26 years old, 6'6". Had a terrible first or second season, was the most get hit guy. I was very high on him last season where he's 95 with the cheddar. He's got a change at 41% whiff rate, a huge differential. 94 with the cheddar, but an 81 mile an hour change up, a 13% crossover there. Last season, his slider had 52% whiffs. The fastball, he got up to 29% whiffs, which is good. On a fastball, 20% whiffs means you're getting hit. Getting up to 30% whiff, now the fastball's starting to work and you can feel better about. So I see a guy whose arsenal got better. The change, he didn't even throw the curveball, so maybe he never got the feel going for it. But I know from his scouting that Giolito has a curveball in him. Once he gets the grip for it again, he can probably put that back in his arsenal. Another tool to keep guys off balance. When he throws it to both sides of the plate. I like Giolito just for being big. 26, former number 1 prospect, and a first-round pick, 16th overall. K's are up. I got Lucas in there. Let me show another thing where he's got it going. Is on that zone contact. Here's really where it is. 2016 zone contact of 90. Terrible. Gets it down to 86, 85. And 2019 for Lucas Giolito's breakout, he goes to 73% zone contact. Better is it last season on a 71% zone contact with a 28% chase. The whiff is up to 36%. Lucas Giolito is a burgeoning ace, in my opinion. He has Cy Young stuff. If he were to really lock in the command, add a curveball with some whiff to it, it could be a very scary player. Luis Castillo, a guy we've known and loved. We had guys who hung in with Luis Castillo in between his ups and downs. When we wanted the breakout, he didn't give it to us, and then he gave it to us the next year. But if you hung in there, Luis Castillo's been paying off. Big boy fastball, 96.5%. Goes into 2020, finds a tick, 97.5 mile per hour fastball, which we love to see. Let's look at these whiff rates. In 2019, the slider had a 47%, and the change had a 48%. That's filth. That's 2+ pitches. He comes into 2020, slider with the 43%, changeup with a 40%, but the big boy fastball, adding that tick, plays up 37% whiff rate, 4 out pitches. I mean, Luis Castillo, 3 out pitches. He's got an arsenal very similar to like a Garrett Cole or a Degrom. So Castillo's going to be in there. He's really learned how to pitch, 28 years old. Love everything he's doing. Let's just check some of those contacts. Plate discipline, zone contact has always been great, only 75%. Chase, in 2019, he touched 32%. We'd like him to get up a little bit from 28% last year. And the whiff, we've seen him do 36%, 33% last year. Luis Castillo has all of it. You're looking at an ace. I think you can feel confident buying in there and him getting a lot of strikeouts this season. The next batch, it starts to thin out. I selected 4 more pitchers. I believe that'll take me to 11. And there were some guys that I had to omit because I saw some red flags. So let me lay the names down, and then we'll get into their conversation. Jack Flaherty, Blake Snell, Dinelson Lamet, and Brandon Woodruff. That's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm seeing for filth. There's last season's numbers would tell you Dinelson Lamet and Brandon Woodruff. Multiple seasons numbers would tell you Jack Flaherty and Blake Snell. But more speculation there because they didn't just do it. And they could come in and continue to not do it. But if they jump back to what they've been doing in 2018, 2019, you're looking at aces in Jack Flaherty and Blake Snell. If Dinelson Lamet and Brandon Woodruff are small sample size explosions, they may regress back down to being middling, and there's some risk there. So there's which kind of risk do you want to take? The guys that I omitted that are very good pitchers that I just don't see jumping up and being a number 1A overall ace are Trevor Bauer, Aaron Nola, and Kenta Maeda, who we can discuss. But let me go into Jack Flaherty. And sometimes it's just looking at where these guys maybe went wrong last season, where they took a step back. So Flaherty in 2019, how's the fastball? It's 94 miles an hour. So it's a very good fastball. It isn't the big boy fastball of 95, 97, 98 that we're seeing from the other guys. In 2019, the whiff rates, 45% of the slider, 40% of the curveball. Okay, good. The fastball, only 22% whiff. He gave up 14 home runs on it. So he had a little bit of a bad fastball problem. We come into 2020, we see that the slider was up to plus at 49%, great to see. But the curveball wasn't quite snapping off the way it used to. The whiff rate came back down to 34%, which isn't great. The fastball whiff still sat at 24. The home run suppression was a little bit better. So I think that a Flaherty who has very good swing and miss stuff has a step forward. He's only 25 years old. He throws hard. Let's take a look at some of the plate disciplines. Yes, a zone contact way down at 78%. Very good. And here we see where it went wrong. In 2019, the chase, 29%. In 2020, the chase was only 25%. I bet some of that step back came from the curveball. Guys have been scouting it. They're seeing it out of the hand. They're laying off, and he's not throwing it for strikes. But Flaherty will make an adjustment. He's very young. But what we do see is a whiff percentage, probably burgeoned by that filthy slider, went from 31% in 2019 up to 34% in 2020. It's going to be a full season. There's going to be another big step forward for Jack Flaherty. And this gives me a chance to mention he's going to get a little bit more run support because Nolan Arenado came over from Colorado to bat 3-4 with Paul Goldschmidt. St. Louis is getting serious, paying Nolan Arenado to get the most out of Paul Goldschmidt as he ages. That's a good thing for Jack Flaherty and for his win potential. When you get run support, you can start to pound the zone. When you're pounding the zone, you're keeping your pitch count down. When your pitch count is down, you're going 7 innings, and you're getting me more strikeouts and wins. That's what I care about. Let's switch over to Blake Snell. Blake Snell is only 28 years old, guys. He's always had filthy stuff. 2019, we see a guy with scary, scary stuff. A slider with a 51% whiff, a changeup with a 40% whiff, a curveball with a 55% whiff. Just unbelievable. The fastball sits 95. It ticked down half a tick to 95 in 2020. We want to see it tick up. Why did Degrom get better? Ticked up and up again. We've seen Cole tick up in his past. What happens to Blake Snell? The curveball still scary. 61% whiff plus. I mean that's a level of whiff rate that's unbelievable. The slider, 49% whiff rate. The changeup lost a little something to it. What happened? What happened to it? Well, here it is. The changeup velocity in 2019 is 86 miles an hour. The changeup velocity in 2020 is 88. So when he speeds up the changeup, he lost some differential. Guys were able to sit on some stuff, and that made a huge difference. The 2 miles an hour dropped that whiff rate by 25%, making the changeup almost ineffective. And the fastball was getting hit because it's only got a 23% whiff rate, which is down from 2019. He gave up 8 bombs on it. He only gave up 5 bombs in all of 2019. He gave up 8 last year. So you're looking at a homer-prone situation that I think Blake Snell at 28 can figure out. We know the fastball's a little bit straight. He may never be able to, a fastball's got to have a little swerve on it, a little tail. But Blake's is just a little bit straight. It gets hit up a little bit, so he's got to work around it. He's got to suppress those home runs. If he does, and that arsenal comes back, you're looking at a K monster. Zone contact's always been great, 77, 78. Chase, plus 30, 35, 33%. The whiff rate in 2019, Blake had a whiff rate of 38%. Elite. Even in a down year, it was 34%. The only problem for Blake last season was giving up those dingers, and I think he straightens that out and gets right. All right, here are the 2 emerging guys, Dinelson Lamet and Brandon Woodruff. And what are we seeing from these 2? Dinelson Lamet coming off a tear, has the surgery, may still have a little tear. He's just throwing through it, and he's throwing hard. 28 years old. Big boy fastball, 97 miles an hour. Actually up a tick. In 2019, he's throwing 96. He comes in last season, he's throwing 97. What's interesting here is the Dinelson Lamet of 2019 threw 5 pitches. The changeup he only threw 19 times, so let's say 4 pitches. The slider and the curve, 51% whiff, 48% whiff. So those are 2 plus out pitches. On a fastball that was 96, the whiff was only 18%. Not very good. Did he give up home runs on it? Yes, he did, 7. He goes into a shortened season, maybe just could not get a feel for the curveball, didn't even use it, just threw sliders. Threw more sliders than fastballs. He wasn't fastball, he was slider fastball. Threw a couple sinkers, which were just as hard as the fastball at 97, that didn't get whiffs. They're probably getting grounders. So Dinelson, we don't like to see a pitcher on 2 pitches, because now you get through the lineup once, twice. That third time through, you're not fooling guys. They're starting to sit on your arsenal. You need that third pitch to get through the lineup, to get it to turn over the third time, to get me to 6 innings for the quality start, to get deep into games for the win. But Dinelson's, the 47% whiff rate on the slider, he just rode it. He just sat on it. But I don't think we saw the full expanded arsenal. It might be something with the elbow. He didn't get to warm up. He didn't have a feel for the pitch. But there's more here. There's a guy that's shown 2++ out pitches with 97% cheddar, with tons of run support in San Diego. I'm high on Dinelson Lamet. I think he's got the goods to be an elite ace this season. And where I kicked some other guys out, I dug into some pitching. I see a Brandon Woodruff, 27 years old. And to stick with the theme of why we're holding these guys to be aces, it's a big boy fastball of 96.6 miles an hour. Yeah. What we see is a plus slider with a 47% whiff rate. We've got a 5-pitch arsenal guy, which we like. I gotta like when you're sprinkling curveballs, you're throwing sliders to both sides. You got a changeup with a 33% whiff. Not great, but a change that you're using. The sinker, which I think guys need to shove. Why throw the sinker with the batting average of 244 when the four-seamer's batting average is 190? But they're still throwing it. It wasn't giving up home runs, so maybe he's getting some grounders with it. The whiff rate only 16%. But that big boy fastball working at a 33% whiffs. So he's got 3 pitches that are very hard to hit. Was it better than last season? Yeah. Yeah, that slider went from a 29% whiff rate to something he just mastered to 47% whiff rate. I like a Brandon Woodruff to kind of round it out for me there. We got a little bit more time. I'm going to touch on a couple guys. Maybe I'm going to talk about 5 more guys. Bauer, Nola, Maeda, and 2 guys that I want to enter the conversation. What happened to them last season? Walker Buehler. Where are you, Walker? I mean, there's names all over the list. Why aren't these guys elite? Why didn't it pan out? And the name we've got to remember is a Sixto Sanchez down in Miami on a bad team, but a very good young pitcher. Trevor Bauer. What am I seeing from Trevor? Trevor's had a strong slider, strong cutter. I think that Trevor, his velocity loses a tick, 94.5 to 93.5. That's not a good sign. He's adding in more cutter, which is a way to compensate when you're losing a little bit on the fastball. His cutter really slows down to 85 miles per hour, so it's a soft cutter, 41% whiffs. But now the cutter's his bad pitch, and that's sapping a little bit of velocity. He was using the curveball, but what he liked the season before was the slider. But the slider took a step back. So Bauer is a very cerebral pitcher, a maximum effort pitcher, always tinkering, always changing up his mix. But I wonder if because he's been putting so much effort into that arm that we're starting to see a little bit of deterioration. Yes, he is a stud, but I just don't want to get caught with Bauer overthinking himself and getting mixed up a little bit. Plus, you've got that left on base, and I just don't see enough for me to catapult him into that top stratosphere. Aaron Nola is a curveball guy. In 2019, when it didn't go well, the whiff rate on the curveball was a 34. This season, he gets a curveball up to a 42% whiff rate, and the changeup starts to work at 36%. 2 just not great out pitches. Those aren't great out pitches. Blake Snell has a much better chance of breaking out than Aaron Nola because of the out. The 4-seam fastball sits at just 93. Got a little bit of whiffs. The sinker doesn't get any whiffs. I don't know why he throws it. He needs a 4th pitch to go deep into games. But you're looking at a fastball, curveball change mix that just isn't going to be spectacular this season from Aaron Nola. He does have very good control and doesn't walk guys. He's a very good pitcher. There could be a step forward, but I just don't know how big it is because he's not getting enough swing and miss. Kenta Maeda, the very interesting story of Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda is another example. He changes teams. He changes from the Dodgers over to Minnesota, and he switches from being fastball slider to slider fastball. Kind of the Patrick Corbin approach to just throwing your best pitch. And Maeda, yes, the slider has a 33% whiff rate, down from 40% because he was throwing it all the time. It was his lead pitch. He gets the changeup to work better with the 45% whiff rate. And what we see is a guy with an arsenal fastball. He throws some sinker, some curve, some cutter, The curve and the cutter, he's just throwing a lefties. He's not throwing a righties because he's a little scared to throw it. The sinker's batting average is pretty good. Just the whiffs aren't there, so he's really a heady pitcher. Not filthy enough, 32 years old. The numbers were great last season. I think he had a great season. He's really suppressing hard hit. He's suppressing exit velo. He's not walking guys. He's staying in the plate by throwing his arsenal. Just not filthy enough to really be a 1A ace, but he's gonna be good this season. Let's take a look at Walker Buehler here. What happened to Walker? We needed a step forward from Walker and we didn't get it, but we're seeing glimmers. In 2019, the 5-pitch mix, true 5-pitch, 6, he tried a couple changeups. Fastball, slider, cutter, curve, sinker. Whiff rates on the curveball were a 37. The slider had a 32. Not great, but we see last season a curveball with a 50% whiff rate. The fastball is a little straight. The whiff rate is only 24%. That's not excellent. What did the slider do? It looks like he didn't have a feel for it. In 2019, he threw a lot of sliders for a 32% whiff rate. Suddenly, the slider wasn't getting any whiffs. He barely threw it. So I don't know if that's an elbow thing, but we haven't seen the full expression of Walker Buehler's arsenal. What we do like is that 96.8 cheddar big boy fastball that he can get behind. He's 26 years old. I think the best is in front of a Walker Buehler, and I'm not going to forget about him. And just here's a new pitcher, Sixto Sanchez. Young Sixto, 6 feet, 22 years old. And when you're talking about fastballs, here one is 98.5 miles an hour. Special. We don't have a lot of data on him. We know he throws hard. But what I do like is a pitcher that's throwing changeups, sinkers, fastballs, sliders, and curves. All filthy. The sinker we don't need. It's got an XBA, an expected batting average of 250, okay. The whiff rates, the curveball, 34% whiff rate. The fastball has a 29% whiff rate. So that's a very good fastball. That's a fastball he can just get behind and ride. He's not throwing it the most. He's got a whiff rate on the changeup of 28% whiff rate. So very interesting mix. No, the whiff rates aren't there yet. But he's 2 years old. He's just started pitching. The fastball sits 98. The sinker's at 96. What's the differential to the change? 98 miles an hour to 89. About 9 mile an hour differential. Sixto figures a couple things out. You're looking at a burgeoning ace. I had to get his name in there. And then continuing our season. That was it. That was a lot to digest. Hopefully you guys like it. You see how we're breaking down players. Let's just check Sixto's. It made me forget. Let's check his plate discipline. Zone contact of 81%. A chase of 34%. A whiff of only 24%. So the chase is there. If the zone contact kicks down a little bit, the whiffs tick up. You're looking at a guy that could go very high in future seasons. Continue the theme of country for old men. There's 4 starters that we just kind of have to think about that I'm high on, but I wasn't ready to just go all in on. We'll have to digest them in an additional session. Carlos Carrasco, the pitch arsenal maestro. Corey Kluber hasn't pitched for a couple years, but he looks like he's back. He's back and he's in the Bronx. Zach Greinke, the low velo, low walk, low K, getting it done season after season. Clayton Kershaw, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Steven Strasburg, Lance Lynn, Charlie Morton, and I'll even throw in a Framber Valdez, who was giving up a lot of hard hit, and a Noah Syndergaard, who's injured and won't be back right away. Outside of that group, what happened to Glass now, Wheeler, Marquez? What do we do with the Zach Gallen? These are some of the names that have to go up on your list. Starting pitching, round 1, laying the foundation. We're going to be right. We're getting through elite pitchers. Now we got to start getting towards upside. Shout out to all the subscribers. Hit me up in the comments. Holla at you, boy.